Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Corey Hicks today. We're going to be talking about chords and chord construction and kind of unveiling some of the mysteries that go along with that. So you're not going to need a chord book of any kind today. We're just going to be talking about chord construction along with the scale and how a lot of pros and musicians figure out what chords to use over certain scales and melodies. So first of all, we're going to talk about a C chord in the open position. Now you're all probably familiar with this chord, and I want to just point out that a major chord can be the 1, the 4, the 5 chord of any key. So a C major chord will be the 1 chord in the key of C major, it'll be the 4 chord in the key of G major, and it'll be the 5 chord in the key of F. So if I have the notes of the C major chord, which are C, E, and G, when I play the C major scale in that location, those notes will be included. So if I take the C major scale in the open position, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, you'll notice that all of those notes, the C that I played at the A string on the 3rd fret, the E that I played on the D string on the 2nd fret, the open G, and of course the C that I played here on the B string on the 1st fret were included in that scale. Now if I make it the 4 chord of the key of G, I would have E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. You'll notice that the C chord is shown in that scale. And the same thing would be true for the F major scale. So I would have E, F, G, A, B flat, C, D, E, F, G, A, B flat, C, D, E, and F. So for all 3 of those key centers, the C major, the F major, and the G major, that C chord is present. Now, what notes you can use with that chord are going to be determined on the key that you're in. So there's a couple of them that we're going to talk about. They're kind of available in all 3 of those keys. And the first one's going to be a C sus2 chord. Take my C chord, the sus means suspended, and what I'm going to be doing is removing the E note and adding the open D string. That's the 2nd note of a C major scale, or a C Lydian mode, or a C Mixolydian mode, which are going to be the appropriate chord scales for the keys of G and F. So next I'm going to add the 4th. So the 4th, C, D, E, F, is going to make the chord a C sus4, and that sus, the 4, the F note, is replacing the 3rd. Now, if you'll remember, I said that in order for this chord to be available, it needs to be in the key. And you'll notice that the note F is not in the key of G. So a C sus4 chord could not be used in the key of G, because the key of G has an F sharp, and this F note would not be available. So when you play a C sus4, it would only be available on a 1 chord, C in the key of C, or it would be available in the key of F as the 5 chord. Okay? And so what I can do is I can kind of put together a little vamp using these chords. And I was using hybrid picking there on my right hand. I highly recommend learning how to do that. If you're unfamiliar with it, I'm just taking the lowest note of the chord with my pick, the middle finger's playing the next one, in this case the D string, my ring finger's playing the G string. And if I need that pinky note on that 4th note, I'll do that. Okay? Alright, so now we have a C sus2, we have a C sus4, and now we're going to go up to a C6 chord. So I'm going to come up to the 6th scale degree of my C major scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which gives me the note A. C, D, E, F, G, A. So if I take a C major chord and I add in the A note, we're going to get a C6. That's what all these chords mean. They mean what they say. Okay, so a C6, you'll notice it's kind of like an A minor. In fact, it is an A minor over C. So hopefully that'll clear up some of those questions as well. If someone says, hey, I need you to play me an A minor over C, or you choose to say C6, those are the same thing. Furthermore, if I wanted to take every, like drop 2, for example, that I know of my A minor 7 chords these are all going to be C6 chords. You know, I could even get some weird shapes in there like this. Are going to be the notes C, E, G, and A for a C major 6 chord. Okay? All right. Next, we're going to be talking about adding some of the tensions. So those are the chord tones that are above the octave. Now, we've all heard of like a C9 chord. Why is it called a C9? Well, because it's basically a C dominant 7th with a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, the 9th note of the scale that's on top. Okay. What about a C sharp 11? Well, that chord would have the F sharp on top. I could start on C, playing a C Lydian, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay? So the 11 of a C major scale is the same as the 4. It's an F note. So a sharp 11 would be the note F sharp. Now, if that's confusing to you, I actually like to look at it like this. If you see my hand here, I'm thinking of it as 1, 3, 5, and 7. Then you'll see the little gaps in between my fingers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And so those gaps, when we are talking about tensions, are going to be 9, 11, and 13. So really, the chords are 1, 9, 3, 11, 5, 13, 7. And just like anything else you have to memorize, I just recommend sitting down going 1, 9, 3, 11, 5, 13, 7. 1, 9, 3, 11, 5, 13, 7. 1, 9, 3, 11, 5, 13, 7. Just say it over and over again until it becomes second nature. That means if I want a F13 chord, like if I wanted something here, I know that the 13 is the same as the 6. So F, G, A, B flat, C, D would be the 6th note, also the 13, and I'm just adding that on top. If I wanted to put an octave down, I'll put the D in that chord down there. Okay? And so chord construction is one of those things where the more you spend time with it, the easier it gets. You really do need to know your major scales and your chords in the key, that is your major 7, minor 7, minor 7, major 7, dominant 7th, minor 7, flat 5. So major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished. Once you know your major scales, you understand what the 7th chords are in a key, things can be pretty easy. You just keep all of your additional notes diatonic, meaning in the key, and then you're fine. So if I'm in the key of C major and I want to play a G7 chord with a flat 13, I really can't and keep it diatonic because I'd be introducing the note E flat. But if I want a 13, that's perfectly fine because that would be the note E, which is in the key of C major. Okay? Hopefully you're with me on this. We can use some chord shapes to kind of give a lot of different variants to some of our rhythm guitar playing. And so I don't think of them as shapes, by the way. I think of them just as the tones. If someone said to me, I need you to just strum like a G major chord, or the G major chord is going to be playing for 8 measures, or something long like that, and I want to come up with something that's a little bit more interesting than just strumming a G chord, I might take a G6. So I'm just starting from my G chord like this, but I'm playing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm putting that 6th note on the D string. Okay, so I have G, E, which is the 6th. There's my B, which is the major 3rd. And on top over here, I have the D tone, which is the perfect 5th. And then I'm just going to switch to become a major 7, add 9. These two fingers, the pinky just went down to the D string, and this index finger went up to the G string. Fairly simple switch, but what happened there was I played the 7th of the scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and introduced the 9. You'll notice that that is also a D major first inversion, right? F sharp, A, and D. But so you could also call it a D over G, but it's really a G major 9 sound. And so if I had to play that G chord for a while, I would just sit here and go like this. Okay? So these are some ways that you can actually introduce a lot of really cool things into your playing. If I had something where I was just playing a B chord to an E chord, I might do something where I hammer on the 9th, and maybe the 11th, turning this into like an F sharp dominant 7th, sus4 type of thing. And then use maybe a lower inversion of that E chord. I have B, E, and it's G sharp right there. And so really, understanding chords has to do an awful lot with understanding the theory. This is why a lot of times when people are saying things like, you don't need to know music theory to play well, technically you don't need to know it, meaning like finger-wise, but if you want to create new sounds and you want to kind of explore a little bit and kind of get the sounds that are in your mind out, you will need to know a little bit of theory so that you can find these things and know what they're called. Just like a really good chef, if he wants something that's spicy, it's not just put something spicy in, he needs to know what type of pepper, right? He doesn't like the way habanero tastes, but he really likes the way that cayenne tastes or something like that. So you have to understand that all these different things are flavors to your chords, and you really need to know what they are so that you can use them. Okay, and so chord construction, not very difficult once you understand your major scales. Now, we have talked about drop 2s in the past. So if I take, for example, this G7 chord, what I can do here is I can move it to all the other inversions. So I have my root position with the G in the bass, and then I have first inversion with the B in the bass. I have second inversion with the D in the bass. Third inversion with the F in the bass. G7 is just G, B, D, and F. And so I would just sit here and practice that over and over again, but I'm not just mindlessly playing it with my fingers. I'm thinking second inversion, third, root, then third, or first. Third, I meant the third in the bass. So second, third, root, first, right? Or I can think about it as what is the tone that's the melody on top. The flatted 7th is on top. The root is on top. The third is on top. The perfect 5th is on top. And then you grab all of them that you can find. And then with any one of these chords, I can add one of the tones that I want. Let's say I wanted to make it a G9. I know that the 9 is the same as the 2. There I did. I added a note in there, right? What if I'm over here? I could voice this chord and add the A in. What if I was over here? There's the G, make it an A. And now it is a G9. Now, you'll also notice that some of these chords are synonyms. A G9 chord is actually a B minor 7 flat 5, which is B, D, F, and A. So that's the same notes, but it's called a different thing because it's a different function within a key. But it's also a D minor 6, because a D minor 6 is going to be D, F, A, and B. And so wait a minute. So every G9 chord is a B minor 7 flat 5 and is also going to be a D minor 6? Yeah. Wow, that's kind of a crazy thing, right? And so as you're exploring chords, I just recommend like really talking to yourself out loud. I do that all the time when I'm practicing so that I understand what it is that is under my fingers. And so I highly recommend books like Chord Chemistry by Ted Green. And then there is a book called Melbay's Complete Harmony, Theory, and Voice Leading by Brett Wilmot, which is a great book for learning drop 2s and for putting things together. So, chord construction, not that difficult once you understand major scales, like I said. I would take chords that you already know how to play, but you just don't know what they're called, and maybe start to investigate what that would be from a theoretical mindset, okay? So remember, chords, it's not just about your fingers or memorizing a grip or memorizing what it looks like. It's memorizing how it sounds, and really, most importantly, memorizing the intervals within that chord. For example, this B major 7, sharp 11, 9, 13, I have a 1, I have a 5, I have a 6, I have a 9, a sharp 11, and a major 7. Picking those notes out so that you know what that stuff is. It can be done. I went from being, in high school, a rather poor, chord person, I didn't know that many chord voicings. And then after studying this stuff, I just fell in love with it. And just having a chord for any type of situation is really important. Let me give you one more tip here for today. Let's say that you had a C major 7 chord, and it's too bright or too plain. you want to make it sound darker. Put it in first inversion. Now I have a mysterious C major 7. I have 3, 7, 5, or 1 and 5. Wow, can't talk today. 3, 7, 1, and 5. This is a drop 2 in first inversion. Now if I want to take a normal D minor chord and make that less minor, make it more bright sounding, I could put that in first inversion. Now I'd have flat 3, flat 7, 1, and 5. You'll notice maybe you hit an extra string and you're like, oh, I like that. But what is it? Well, you can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, 6 is the same as 13, so this is a D minor 13. So let's talk about tuning a little bit. There's a couple of things that I take a look at on my guitar. I like to keep everything intonated as properly as possible. I've done that with some compensated saddles on my Telecaster that I really enjoy. And these are Rutter's saddles. And if you can see that there, they look exactly like normal saddles for the Telecaster. And what I like about them is the screws are inside of the saddle, so you don't get that cutting into your hand. And what I do is I intonate it, so even, you see I'm playing a bar chord at the 12th fret. Pretty close. So I work really hard to keep my guitars in tune, so when I'm working on chord voicings, it's just more pleasing to the ear and it just makes it actually more enjoyable. And then with the hybrid picking thing that we were talking about before, an exercise that I usually give out is going to be taking like a D chord. And what I'm going to do with that D chord is I'm going to put my pick on the D string, my middle finger is going to be on the G string, ring finger is going to be on the B string, pinky's going to be on the high E, and I'm just going to hit them all at the same time. And then I remove my middle finger, giving me a D sus2. Pinky goes on the 3rd fret of the high E, giving me D sus4, and then back, and you kind of get something like this. And if I throw a little bit of hybrid picking in there with the fingers, or just alternating, so that's kind of a cool thing there. All right, so that is it for today, talking about chords a little bit. You can try doing some other things. I like playing a lot on the bridge pickup when I'm practicing this stuff. And the reason for that is because it's harder to control, so if I can make the bridge pickup sound nice and smooth when I'm playing rhythm guitar, then anything will sound smooth. So. All right, so I hope you learned something today. Chords don't have to be this thing that is just going to baffle you forever. You always need a chord book. You can get this under your fingers where you can actually come up with these voicings yourself. And if it is the notes of that chord, then it is correct. So, I mean, I could take a G here, an open B string, and the D note here, and if I could reach that far, that is a G major chord because the notes are present. Sometimes students will ask me, yeah, I know those are the correct notes, but is that really like a chord you'd find in a chord book? It is the chord, so don't have to worry about that at all. All right, so if you're interested in some more deep dives, you can reach out to me on Patreon. I do give lessons over Zoom. I have a lot of material out there. We've already covered a lot of stuff since the spring this year. I've talked about note recognition on the guitar. We've talked about scales. We've talked about triads and arpeggios and modes. We've learned all 84 positions of the modes. And so we have a pretty good handle on a lot of the basics right now. So we are going to be starting on some new things, maybe some melodic minor. I have a lot of requests that I'm going to be dealing with as well. So maybe we'll do a question and answer episode, that type of thing. All right, as always, please like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out, of course. Head over to my Patreon if you want to learn more. And I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. Peace.